we're going to go at this another way. A lot of theists seem to think that atheists in general are going after the low-hanging fruit, going after the theists and the apologists who really are saying pretty stupid things. But in my quest to find anyone better, I'm now going to be leaving YouTube and trying a completely different tack. So, are there better apologists out there in the World Wide Web? I don't know. Let's go take a look. So, I started to wonder if the reason that I'm not finding any quality apologists is because I'm limiting my search to just people who get their talks put on YouTube. So maybe we should go look at blogs and other websites. I found a site that purports to tell us the top 10 Christian apologetic blogs and websites to follow in 2020, even though they actually list 13 blogs, but yeah, let's not think about that. Let's just see if there's something more intelligent here. But yeah, don't be holding your breath. These are not deep thinkers. It's the same religious bullshit, different format. But anyway, let's get started. Now, before we really get going, I wanted to point out that I am specifically looking at Christians saying these are the best. I'm not just picking them out of a hat. I'm saying Christians are saying these are the best. It's very important that we do that because it puts the burden of proof on the theists. It's not us cherry picking, it's them. So anyway, moving on, blog number 1 is The Poached Egg. Now, this one is a dumping ground for any big-name religious zealot who wants to post an article. They say they update 6 times a day, but they really don't have much of a following. I mean, I looked through some of the articles by the likes of John Lennox and J. Warner Wallace, and we've talked about them before, and absolutely none of them had anything intelligent to say about the case for Christianity. In fact, it was all the same old tired blather aimed directly at the already religious, with no evidence, no rational arguments, and nothing intelligent for the non-believer to read. It's all preaching to the cult and playing make-believe with reality. I even looked at some articles talking about atheism, and they're stuffed full of the same old misconceptions and straw men that we see in YouTube apologetics. If this is the best they can manage, nobody should be impressed. Number 2, CrossExamine.org. Ah yes, good old Frank Turek. Now, we've looked at his site before, but not necessarily his blog. He writes an article every couple of days, and yeah, it's all the same old dumb Turekisms that we've grown to loathe, and that's hardly a surprise, is it? Because I think we all realize that Frank doesn't have anything intelligent to say. It's a lot of pro-religious spam without any means of responding to religious criticisms of his faith. Now, I will grant that Frank is a one-stop shop for religious absurdity, and that's why he's such a staple of the channel, but I'm really looking for things that will convince the skeptics that the religious have a clue, and I think we all know it's certainly not going to be found here. On to blog number 3, Apologetics Guy. Yeah, I'm not coming up with titles here, it's really them. This is right around the time that I started noticing how fast these top sites fall off in the ratings. Turek had 304,000 Facebook fans, and this guy has 2.5K. It doesn't really matter, but it was an interesting observation. But I did go and look, and again, it's all religious numbnuts spewing blind faith to other religious zealots with no actual intelligent content in sight. Because they have no intelligent content. Every article relies on "we're already right" thinking because they aren't interested in testing their own beliefs. They only care what they believe and figure, hey, if it makes us feel good, it's gotta be true. Except skeptics don't look at it that way, nor should anyone else. I went into articles on the resurrection and found they were all just playing the "it's in the Bible so it's true" nonsense. And that's not how rational thought works, because these are not rational people. Number 4. Answers in Genesis. This is where you know you're completely off the rails. Answers in Genesis is Ken Ham's outfit, and while he has a decent social media following, we all know that Ham wouldn't know reality if it bit him in the ass. He has failed miserably at every turn, and his stupid Ark Park is still a financial failure, but, what else can we expect? If you want absurd creationist nonsense, that's one of the best sites to go to get your fix. You just won't find anything intelligent or rational there. After all, Ken Ham doesn't give a damn about reality. Remember, there's absolutely nothing that could ever make him doubt his faith. And that tells you that he's a complete idiot. Site number 5, Apologetics 315. This is another repost site that does everything from movie reviews to podcasts to, pretty much everything in between. None of it is intelligent, and none of it is aimed at convincing the non-believers that their faith is anything worthwhile. Because, let's be honest, that's not what Christianity or any other religion is about. It's not what Christianity or any other religion is capable of. And that's kind of the problem, isn't it? I want someone who can show me that God is real, not have faith in it, not read it in a book, prove it. And if you can't do that, then it's all just a faith-based clusterfuck, and that's universally what these sites are. There's nothing worth anything here, so I guess we're just gonna move on. Number 6, Reasons for Jesus. Now, I sort of had hope for this one. After all, there are lots of articles that purport to present evidence, but none of them actually do. Historical evidence proves Jesus had a biological brother. Well, what is that historical evidence? Present it. Let's see what you're talking about. Oh, you mean the Bible, because the Bible's all they have. The Bible is just full of stories, but those stories can't be independently verified to be true, and that's the problem. It all relies on faith, and if faith is all you can do, screw you. There's no way to prove that Jesus had a brother because there's no way to show that Jesus existed in the first place. It turns into a giant religious circle jerk of people with blind faith believing stories in a book of mythology because, it makes them feel good. What good does it do anyone to think Jesus had a brother? Nothing at all. It's just a matter of curiosity. All they're doing is pandering to the already religious and feeding them a line of bunk that'll make them happy. But because none of it helps to corroborate anything in the Bible, who gives a crap about any of that? Number 7, Apologia. The subtitle reads, A place where science, reason, and Christianity meet. Yet it's nothing of the sort. Daniel Courier just throws around a lot of scientific concepts and pretends God did it. It's a site based on pure rationalization. They bring up science and reason and then they just staple, therefore God, to the end of it. This is absurdly common, but it doesn't do anything to help convince the non-religious that Christianity has the slightest clue what the hell it's talking about. I mean, in the aforementioned article, he concludes, it seems clear that God originally created viruses for good purposes. Well, says who? Where the hell did you get that? Except right out of your own asshole. But that's really what all of this is, right? Blind faith and bald rationalizations joining forces to hang on to the coattails of science. And that's not how intelligence works. You actually have to prove God is real first. Get to work. Blog number 8, Deep Waters. This one doesn't seem to be much into apologetics. It's more focused on marriage counseling and preaching to the disabled, but hey, it's still on the list, so we're going to go look at it anyway. Like the others, it's just a bunch of ad hoc rationalizations and preaching to the already religious. It presupposes that Christianity is true without bothering to demonstrate that Christianity is true, and anyone who doesn't already buy into the religious bullshit, well, they're just not going to be that impressed. But honestly, have you really been impressed with any of these sites so far? Because that's all they ever do. Believe first, preach second, make sense, Never. They're not here to justify their faith. They just assume that it's true for emotional reasons and pretend that anyone who disagrees is an evil sinner who needs their religion to be saved. But that's really stupid when you think about it. Every religion says the exact same thing. Every single one. We're right, you're wrong, so there. But the second that you expect them to demonstrate that they're actually right, yeah, crickets. That's all you get. Number 9. Twin City Apologetics. This one seems to be yet another dumping ground, which is kind of sad because the site says they post 4 times a year. A year. Seriously? That's why they have virtually no social media following. I went through and I looked at some of these, and I found them to be every bit as laughable as every other site I've looked at. Faith first, facts, well, who the hell needs facts anyway? I've actually taken a couple of their articles, and I'm going to go after them on my blog because they really are that bad. Not that the religious care, of course, because reality is scary and who wants to deal with that, right? That tends to be how the religious operate. Start with faith, stick with your emotions, and make excuses for why you can't actually prove a damn thing. But don't let the fact that you can't prove anything get in your way, because having doubts is a sin, and you can't do that. It really is pathetically sad. Last on our list is blog number 10, Quick Answers. Now, this is probably one of the best looking sites on the list, but it's still just as vapid and empty as all the others. It is still the same kind of delusionally faith-based approach that assumes that they are right first and foremost without being able to prove any of it objectively. Going through one article, for example, on "Do all roads lead to God?", the writer assumes that he's got the nature of God right, and anyone who disagrees, well, they've got to be wrong. Except he can't prove any of it at all. None of them can. It's why all religious debates, especially interfaith debates if you notice, devolve into little more than chimps flinging poo at each other. I mean, what else do they have? It's all faith and zero facts, and nobody can prove themselves right or the other side wrong. So they all just sit there and scream at each other impotently. What else can they do? It isn't like any of them have a clue, is it? So, there you go. Yet another complete waste of time. Because if we're supposed to be going after the big fish with the big ideas, I've got no idea where any of those fish congregate, but it certainly isn't on this list. So let's be perfectly clear about what we're looking for. We want objectively verifiable evidence that the specific claims made by the religious are factually true in the real world. If they can't provide that, then the non-religious are absolutely justified in rejecting the emotionally held faith of the religious because they've got nothing whatsoever to convince us that they're right. And we actually care if they're right. I know they don't, but we do. And the religious who want to pretend that there's something wrong with us for asking for such things, I've got to correct you. There is something wrong with you for believing it in the first place. It really is absurdly sad when you think about it. There is no difference between the religious and the UFO crazies. I don't know. It's all faith, zero facts. There's nothing there. There's no content that's worth taking a look at. Not only is that not remotely impressive, but if that's the best you can do, you've got some serious psychological problems of your own to deal with. Get off my doorstep and see a shrink. Trust me, you need it.